As Monster Hunter World Iceborne is winding down in terms of content, especially in terms of videos on the channel, I have been trying out various other games for not only myself, but to make videos on. The channel has never been dedicated to one game. Okay, yes, it does ebb and flow in which game has the main spotlight from time to time, but for the most part I try to cover multiple games that I enjoy and that I want to make guides for to either help you guys out or inform you or whatever. And as we prepare for Monster Hunter Rise's release, I've been trying out a multitude of games. Most of you who join me on streams know that I'm an avid Warhammer fan, so I've been trying out various Warhammer games. I've been catching up with a few games I missed over the past few years, like Doom Eternal. But there has been one game that has really surprised me, and it was suggested via Discord as well, and that is Genshin Impact. So in this video, I'm going to go over 10 reasons why I love Genshin Impact. Now these are in no particular order, and they're all equally as valuable as one another in all honesty. So the first thing about Genshin Impact that caught my eye was the combat and elemental system. Anyone who knows me, especially from the Mass Effect days, knows that I love elemental combo systems. And in Genshin Impact, whilst it may appear as a simple action-adventure game with pretty basic combat, there is an elemental combo system that makes the combat and gameplay much more engaging. So hypothetically, you would affect one enemy with a cryo or ice ability and then activate a elemental reaction combo by hitting that same enemy who has been affected by the ice ability with a fire ability. This is just one example of the many elemental combos that you can create. And ultimately for me, I find this type of combo system satisfying no matter the game, and Genshin Impact utilizes this system to make the combat much more interesting. I should say as well that the combo system isn't necessarily needed to get yourself through the game, but it does make things more interesting, like I said, and it allows you to take on the tougher challenges a little bit more efficiently. But anyway, the next reason why I love Genshin Impact is the art design. Now, ultimately, when you first look at Genshin Impact and the way it moves, you'll think of Nintendo's Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And you cannot deny that there are very similar art styles. From how the world looks to how characters move and climb and run, inspiration has definitely been taken from one of Nintendo's flagship games. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a complete rip-off. It does move differently technically. There are different mechanics in it. This one has a lot more emphasis on builds and RPG mechanics than Breath of the Wild in my opinion, and on top of that the anime style of the characters definitely adds charm to the world. Obviously the cel shaded aspects of the art design are going to be another key reason why Genshin Impact is compared to Breath of the Wild, but as it is cel shaded, it means that the game isn't going to age as quickly as other titles and adds to the overall longevity of the title. Speaking of which, that brings us on to the next reason why I love Genshin Impact, which is the characters. The characters in the game all have their own certain sense of charm. They are obviously very anime inspired, but nonetheless each of the characters that you can collect, earn and make a part of your team, they all have qualities that make them lovable, fun, cool or exciting. Whether you're looking for a character with a cool moveset or a character with a certain personality, there's someone for everyone in this vast cast of characters. Which brings us on to the next reason why I love Genshin Impact, which is the world. Now when I say the world, I mean the lore side of things, as well as the countryside that you explore. It is an open world game, so you have a ton to get lost in, whether it's adventuring for chests, learning more about the world, taking part in story quests or missions or side events. The world has a lot that you can get lost in. Now when you pick up Genshin Impact for the first time, this can be a little bit overwhelming at the start. It nonetheless gets a little bit smaller once you reach endgame. And as MiHoYo, the developers of the game, are continuously adding new content to Genshin Impact, the world is going to expand with each major update. Which brings us on to the next reason why I love the game, which is the music. The music of Genshin Impact definitely deserves its own spot in this little list. With each region that you visit having its own sort of theme and melody, you can easily tell where you are thanks to the various genres of music you encounter. You also have upbeat combat music to calm or even somber melodies when you're simply exploring. Even if you're not interested in Genshin Impact the game, I recommend checking out the soundtrack. Which brings us on to the next reason why I love Genshin Impact, which is the structure of the game. Now, some people do not like grindy games, and if that is the case, you're probably not going to like Genshin Impact. But for me, I actually do like a game that has a bit of a grind behind it. For some reason, games that have structures, as in they have dailies, weekly challenges, and other structured methods of taking part in the game, I kinda like this. Some people can see them as chores, but if you're enjoying the game, they can be a way of balancing out the gameplay, so to speak. It means that you're not going to finish the game super quickly, which in a way could be also seen as a bad thing for those of you who like to binge games, for example. But for me personally, it means that I'm able to go about my day normally without Genshin Impact taking up too much time. For example, I'll normally log into Genshin Impact, do my dailies, do a few weeklies, spend the various currencies in the game, maybe do a story mission or two before putting the game down and getting on with real life stuff or work or making videos, and then I can go back the next day and do the same. Like I said, this may not be a good point for everyone, but for me personally, it's a positive. Which brings us on to the next reason I love Genshin Impact, which is the story. The story of Genshin Impact is a little bit light-hearted, shall we say. It's not the most serious thing, it's no Schindler's List, for example, but nonetheless, it's very akin to what you may find in light-hearted animes. There are some serious and somber overtones in the story, which were a surprise whenever they popped up, but regardless, overall the story was quite enjoyable. It should be also noted that the story isn't even actually finished yet. As I mentioned, miHoYo are still releasing various areas of the world, which in turn continues the story of Genshin Impact and the search for the main character's lost sibling. Which brings us on to the next reason why I love Genshin Impact, which are the various events in the game. Now, miHoYo hosts various Genshin Impact events in-game throughout the course of the year. Some of these can be seen as kind of filler content, but nonetheless, they're used to celebrate certain holidays, release of new characters, release of new gear, and so on. Each event gives players more things to do, more tasks to take on, more challenges to tackle, and even new game modes to take on entirely. But nonetheless, it gives players something different to do, especially if they are at the end game and they're waiting for the next major title update. Which brings us on to the next reason why I love Genshin Impact, which is more of a personal reason for me, which is the builds in the game. All the various characters in the game have different elements and thus they can have different builds. You can also extend this even one step further by having different weapons as well as the team compositions that you can create. And this, if anyone's followed the channel for a while, is stuff that I love. Making builds is something I can get lost in for hours. And through the artifact system, which is basically the armor system in Genshin Impact, you can create a variety of builds for each of the characters in the game, which in turn can change their playstyles, which in turn can change the role their character takes on, and more. So any game that has a build system in it is definitely a positive in my opinion. In fact, if you guys are interested in the various builds or characters in Genshin Impact, I'll be more than happy to bring you some guides over the coming weeks. Which brings us on to the final reason why I love Genshin Impact, which is the game is free. In some respects, a game of this quality has no right to be free in all honesty. But there is a catch, which for people who do have, shall we say, gambling problems, take this as a huge red flag. Now, whilst Genshin Impact is free for players on PlayStation, PC and mobile, with a Nintendo Switch version planned down the road, the way that miHoYo makes a profit from this stellar game is through their Wish system, which is a gacha system, or loot box system. Basically, when a new character is released, they are normally released in a loot box form, which you have to gamble on, of course. Now, whilst most of the time you can get through the entirety of Genshin Impact, even unlocking new characters and new weapons through a free-to-play system, as in you'll earn the currency you need to get the loot boxes as you just play the game, do the dailies and so on and so forth. If you want the characters fast, as soon as they come out, then if you have that fear of missing out, you may have to put down some money in order to get them. So take this as a warning if you're picking up Genshin. To be honest, I've got through the entirety of the game without buying a single loot box, and I'm very happy with my experience, hence the reason I'm making this video. And if this video has enticed you at all into trying out Genshin Impact, then as I said, it's free, go try it out, but just don't get sucked into the loot box thing unless you have money to burn. So there we have it, those are 10 reasons why I love Genshin Impact. This game really was a surprise for me. I had no intentions of making videos on it either, which in some respects could be one of the reasons why I got sucked into it so much. It was a game I would normally play in between making Monster Hunter content or streams, and with Cyberpunk 2077 disappointing me, it filled a void in my gaming schedule. But as always, when I start enjoying a game more and more, I tend to want to make videos on it and create build videos, guides and more, and that is the case that's happening with Genshin, unfortunately. But anyway, what are your thoughts? Leave a comment down below, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you 10 reasons why I love Genshin Impact. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.